get into. So how much of people's retirement narrative, again, this might just be opinion-based, is about practicality, just meaning the nuts and bolts of how to retire, and how much of the retirement narrative is actually about fear or fantasy?
I think that's a psychographic segmentation. I don't know where the line is, but I don't think it's... My instinct is that that's less about what the conflict in one person and more about some people are more focused on one thing, one of those things, and the other. I'm interested to see how that breaks out from your work.
Yeah, where do you think New York life plays right now in the retirement narrative? What are you?
Our agents play in the practicality space.
Okay.
In the practicality space, but often like a little bit fear-based. Like, you're going to run out of money, I've got the solution. So a practical person should solve that, as opposed to, do you know if you and I talk, you could spend more next year?
Yeah. And do you have a thought that one is better than the other, or you just see them as...
Well, I mean, our work from a few years ago suggested that a third falls into the fear space and 2/3 fall into the more space. So I think we spend, and that was something I used to tout very heavily when I was pushing the annuities, was stop telling people to be afraid. Like, it's not, they're tuning you out.
Yeah. Okay.
In part because a lot of them, like, I'd sit in focus groups and ask people, like, you afraid of running out of money? They're like, not really. Like, but I am, but I manage as if I am, but I don't, because I do that, it's not going to happen. And then you find out they're spending like 1.5% of their assets every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do most people not know about retirement that they should know?
Not know about retirement that they should know. Well, first of all, that's become a loaded word. Like, I think in our business, you know, you've got people like Ken Dykewald out there talking about, you know, there's no such thing as retirement anymore. There's second careers. There's all that. In the financial services business, I've always defined quote unquote retirement as the point when non-wage income starts to become the majority of your non-wages are what you are spending. Right? Like I'm not trying to get into like a philosophical debate with you over whether or not you're retired. When is your paycheck not what you're living on?
I love that. That's
when you're, in my mind anyway, and I've seen that in a lot of focus. That's when you're, and when you talk to focus group people, if you talk to them about retirement, they'll talk about all that stuff he talks about. But when you get down to like talking to them about their money management, they'll use that word in absolute terms to mean exactly what I just said.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's a great perspective. Explain to me why annuities might be the right fit for some people. So what scenarios do you feel they're a benefit for the consumer?
Because again, back to mitigating risk, you can't mitigate yourself, right? If you can spend, especially in this interest rate environment, you can spend, unless you're taking on a lot of risk, you can spend 2 to 3%, you know, of your income, of your assets every year. If you buy an income annuity, let's just say, let's do the all or nothing, and we'll get to the all or nothing thing in a moment. But if you did an all or nothing thing, if you had $1 million, you can spend $20,000 or $30,000 a year. If you buy an income annuity, you can spend $60,000 a year, because that 60 will pay you until you're 110 if you live that long. So that's the big, on the income annuity side, that's the big piece.
Where do interest, like inflation, come into that? I'm just curious. This is just more of a side question, but
so you can buy inflation protection.
You can. Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's expensive though.
Yeah.
And you know the funny thing about inflation, if you look at spending data if you look at spending data for people who don't have a lot of money, as they age, their spending goes up. Medical expenses. If you look at people who do have a lot of money, their overall spending at 65 is much higher than the other ones, but there's a big chunk of that component that's insurance premium. Okay. And then as they age, they actually start spending less because their healthcare expenses don't really go up because they're insured. And they go up with the cost of inflation and the premiums, but like you don't see these big spikes, because when they go to the hospital and spend $300,000 on open heart surgery, it costs them $500, you know, or $3,000, whatever it is. It costs them an immaterial amount to their wealth, versus a poor person would cost them all their wealth when that happens. Yeah. Because they're not properly covered. But their other spending goes down, right? You can't travel the world when you're 90. You don't eat as much when you're 90. I mean, my own grandparents in their 90s had stopped. Like, they used to go out to dinner every night. They stopped not because they couldn't, and not because they didn't want to. They stopped because, like, eating that much kind of made them not feel so good.
Yeah.
So like they did it twice a week instead of 7 days a week, and sometimes they brought the leftovers home.
Yeah.
Like it's just a different, just things. Even if you're very happy and very healthy, you actually can't sustain the leisure spending level as you age.
Yeah.
Because you just can't do it anymore.
You can't do it anymore. It is interesting. It really reframes that narrative, right? Because we think of older people as like bringing home their leftovers, and you think, they're trying to say, but it's not. It's more like I can't finish the meal anymore. Yeah.
And my grandfather used to make garbage pail, right?
Yeah.
In the last years of his life, he was eating like a regular, normal human being.
Right.